use. Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, education, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by the copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Nonprofit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use.
Hello everyone, welcome to Making the Tea Rational, where I make all the tea and gossip make sense.
Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. I decided that I will go on and speak about both Halle Bailey, actress and singer's temporary restraining order that she filed on the father of her child, DDG, rapper and streamer, early in June regarding some physical violence that took place in January of 2025 and filing for full custody of Halo, their 1.5-year-old son. I wasn't going to really speak about this, but I was reading through the TROs on both sides, and all I can say is this relationship should have been cut short back in 2022, because that's when everything started. And I have no clue why either of them would proceed with the relationship and bring a child in the middle of this mess, because this relationship was toxic from the very onset, the very beginning of the relationship. And anytime a person becomes, jealous to the point where it becomes physically abusive, then it's time to cut that relationship off. And I don't care which one does it, or had it, whether it's the man that's doing it, the woman who does it. Fighting and hitting each other in a relationship in front of your child, and even if the child is not present, it's not okay at all, because it's too easy just to cut the relationship off. And there are other people out there that you can meet that's going to respect you and not cheat on you, not make you feel insecure, in the sense where you're linking up with people that you've had intimate relationships with, or you may have had some type of romantic interest in. A woman knows what is going on. And I just think it's disrespectful for anybody, any man, to say that, DDG is a streamer. He has a choice of who he's going to link up with as far as collaborations, right? He can make a choice as to whether or not he wants to stream with them. Halle, unfortunately, when she acts, it is what it is. And she signs a contract. She's legally obligated to fulfill these contracts. Otherwise, it could be legal ramifications for her. And that's one thing I think DDG doesn't seem to understand, because he did get just as angry when Halle had a co-star that she had to have a romantic relationship with in The Little Mermaid. He made a song about it and everything, about her having to kiss him and all this stuff. But this was something that was filmed. I believe, didn't Halle record this and this movie and stuff before she met DDG, or at the beginning of the relationship or something like that? But it's a job. It's clearly a job. Even when she was going around promoting the movie. Well, you kind of have to play up the part when you're doing promotions, because it's kind of odd that you play a love interest, but then when you're seen and you're promoting the movie, it seems like you're just, opposite. You way down on one end, and you guys are very, kind of guarded from one another. That wouldn't kind of work, so they kind of have to play up the part when they go, and travel around to promote movies like that. And DDG was very upset, going on social media, talking about her co-star, and that was interfering with her job, And he's saying that Halle's basically did the same thing when he had to collab with women. But DDG made a choice to collab with the women that he was collabing with. And then he was seeing at movie theaters with some of them, these same women. It's not the same thing. Trust me, that's just not the same thing. You have Halle at home pregnant, right? She's sitting there. She could have went to the movies with you. Why would you take another woman to the movies with you? Why would you do that? You know, and you don't understand why she's upset. I see why she's upset. The only thing that I don't agree with in their relationship is that it had to result to the name calling each other out the name, and definitely hitting one another. That's a no-no. Once you get to the point where you have to hit each other, the relationship is done. It's beyond toxic at that point. And when I'm reading through both of their temporary restraining orders, when you're in situations like this, right, DDG stated that he has a firearm. Usually in situations like this, in DV cases, domestic violence cases, the judge usually requires that neither party can own guns. Any type of firearm, that's usually removed because their relationship is so volatile that I'm sure once it's all said and done, the judge is going to remove a lot of those things. They're not going to be able to have access to any of those things when it's all said and done. I mean, I understand DDG might say he needs it because he gets a lot of threats online and, you know, he needs something for his protection, but no, you get a security guard and have them to do it, but, you know, have them to protect you. But my thing is, it's just, you know, it's really sad because I really thought DDG and Halle were a cute couple once upon a time. And that's when I didn't know what was going on behind the scenes. And that's before I started seeing him openly kind of humiliate her, you know, regarding her jobs and things like that. But, I mean, their relationship was horrible, absolutely horrible. And I don't know why. If DDG felt like Halle Bailey was very, you know, toxic and violent in the relationship, then why in the world would you keep getting back with her? And then why would you even go further to get her pregnant? That doesn't make any sense. That part I don't really get, and it doesn't make much sense to me. Just like on one part when he was talking about when they left the Bruno Mars concert, you know, she became upset. But why? He never explained why she became upset. Why Halle became upset when they were at the concert and why she asked to leave. In the middle of a concert, something happened, but he didn't explain that. And I just believe in his TRO, he's not taking any accountability for what he's done to her. He's just saying that she's done all these things, and which could be true. You know, I saw a clip when he was at a studio session. I think it was maybe when he was with Kai Cenat or something. I don't know. He was at some type of recording. She did show up. She was yelling and all that. But even if that's true, why would you continue on with the relationship? If you're saying that she's so volatile, she's a danger to your child and all that, why would you continue to pursue that relationship? Why would you not file the temporary restraining order and file for full custody of your child if you felt like she was really a threat? It's like, what were you really doing to this lady? You know, what was really going on behind the scenes? It just seems like it's more that was taking place and it's not being explained completely right. I mean, maybe some of the incidents did happen that DDG is complaining about in his TRO, and just like things that Halle's complaining about. But we don't know what's true, what's not true. That Halle had a bruise on her arm, and then your goofy brother tried to say that it had to do with it happened during, you know, some type of intimacy when you guys were being intimate. That's how she got the bruise on her arm, trying to make a joke out of it. And domestic violence is nothing to laugh about. It's nothing to, you know, make jokes about at all, you know, because you can clearly see on her arm that that's a fist. That some fist hit her in her arm. And it looks like she let it heal. Like she really didn't want to probably go out there and pursue that.
The girl like this and you biting a bitch arm and shit. Let me kill y'all, because this is what I want to say. This is important. I'll be in that position drunk off the Julio, right? And I remember waking up the next day and I said, damn. You know you could take a picture of your arm and leg right now and say I whooped your ass in about a couple years if you took a picture.
And that DDG had some look like cut wounds on his hand, which they're saying those were stab wounds. And I mean, I don't know. It just definitely look like they're cuts. Okay, so
We can see that's visibly clear, and we saw that she had the chip too. Now DDG stated that happened because she was, jumped over the seat because I guess he kept calling her name and she asked him to stop and he wouldn't. So I guess that was him trying to explain one of her explosive episodes where she just jumped over the seat and tried to attack him and hurt herself. And she's claiming that DDG was pulling her by her hair because she asked for a visitation schedule. He proceeded to call her name. And when he was pulling her by her hair, she hit her head on the steering wheel and he chipped her tooth. So there are two different exchanges of what occurred, and I don't understand why either somebody's just outright not telling the truth, because you can't forget something like that. Somebody's not telling the truth. And what I don't really like about DDG's TRO is that he's never taken accountability for anything. He's making it seem like Halle has done everything. But you can clearly see DDG has some anger issues, because I've seen him in videos where he slapped food out of his mother's hand, when he's thrown things and got mad about things, and his mother was just playing a prank on him. I remember seeing that, and you can tell he gets upset very easily. And she said, like Halle said, he has some anger issues and that he can't really control. So on DDG's TRO, he states petitioner, which is Halle Bailey, consistently expressed discomfort and hostility toward my work, particularly when it involved collaborating or filming with other women. She refused to be part of my content and often used emotional manipulation or conflict to prevent me from filming with female colleagues. Despite the professional nature of my work, in contrast, I was expected to accept her participation in intimate or screen roles, including kissing, close physical contact with her male co-stars in films without objection. The double standard created ongoing tension and further reflected the controlling and unequal dynamic in our relationship. So what does this mean? Does this mean that he actually had to use Halle to make money? He got more clicks and views when Halle was actually in his content on YouTube, and Halo, of course, as well. So that's what it's looking like. It's looking like when she's in it, his views are much higher than when he's with other people. And it does look like he can suffer some financial difficulties if he can't keep those numbers up. Whereas it seems like her stream of income is a little more stable, a little more, rewarding. She can work in between time and still make, money. She's probably making money all kind of other different ways. And I don't know if he has other streams of income, but he's making it seem like, without Halle, he can't maintain his way of life. So, DDG is kind of all over the place when it comes to finances. And he does talk about money a lot. For a person to be so wealthy, he just constantly talks about money. And it just seems like when a person does that, it's just like men who talk about, they person talking about, how grandiose they are, and really it's not like that. So it's kind of like one of those type of situations. And the next thing I noticed that DDG is requesting child support from Halle. Now again, with as much DDG does with always bragging about how much money he's bringing in, why would you need child support from Halle Bailey? Especially when in her TRO, she stated that DDG is not helping her at all financially with Halo, with any of his expenses. He said from the time he's been born, he's only helped her with one time, with Halo's expenses. And after that, he hasn't. So does this mean that he wants to file for full custody because he doesn't want to pay child support? Or again, is he just doing it to get back at Halle? Is it just retaliation because he's mad because she filed her child custody case in a restraining order based on some domestic violence issues? And another thing is, I noticed that Halle and DDG had political differences. I noticed Halle was telling DDG that Donald Trump wasn't good for black people, that he was a racist and he didn't like black people. So does that mean that Halle's a Democrat and DDG is Republican? That was something that kind of stood out to me on the TROs as well, that not many discussed. So they didn't even get along as far as from a political standpoint. They were at odds with that. So yeah, this relationship was just doomed from the very beginning. They didn't even see things the same. It sounded like they had a lot in common outside of, DDG wanted to be a part of the industry. He raps and, does content. So he's an influencer. And, Halle's out there too. She's a public figure as well. So that's the only thing they kind of had in common. But because Halle was mainstream and DDG was more so, bigger, larger on social media, that made it where it just seems like there was always this competition. Not so much with her. All she wanted was DDG's love. DDG wanted to seemed like bigger than Halle. He wanted to be the center of attention when he was around her. Even Halo, I noticed he kind of he didn't want anyone else to outshine him. It just seems like that. When he's out there and cameras are in his face or just present, he wants to seem like he has always wanted to be the center of attention. And they just had so many different differences that they could have possibly argued about. And I'm sure they did. It just shows on all the text messages that they attached to their temporary restraining orders. And I just feel like this relationship was dead in 2022 and they should have not moved forward with it. Somebody should have cut it off because it wasn't really going anywhere. I mean, I'm sure they probably had some good moments, but it seemed like they had more problems behind the scenes than they had good times. When you read these temporary restraining orders, that's what it looks like to me. Now, if you're not having a relationship, you don't have to be in it. It's not like Halle has to depend on him for money or he has to depend on her, but maybe to a certain degree. I'm sure his numbers are higher if he posts Halle and Halo on his content, but it's not something that has to happen. So with that being said, they should have just went their own separate ways way back in 2022 when things were kind of fresh, and new. They should have just went on and not pursued the relationship, and definitely shouldn't have brought a child in the middle of this. It's like fireworks between them, not from a loving standpoint, but from a toxic standpoint. Just seem like DDG said, they just don't get along. They can't get along in the same room that long. So I just don't understand how the relationship even spiraled. I don't even see how a child was made out of this situation. Like I say, unless they just had a few good moments and it happened. Because it only takes one time, I realize. But still, you think about that before you actually get pregnant, before you conceive. You think about, do we have a good relationship? Will I be a single mother? Would I, be a father and not be able to spend time? You have to think about all those things. You can't just have a baby.
Let me make a call. Let's see if this works. Hello?
Yeah.
I'm not even gonna be that type of nigga. I'm on stream right now, but I was gonna say, when you pull up, I don't want you to think like I'm trying to bring you out there to like get at the nigga or no shit like that. It's really because I genuinely feel like what the nigga did was lame. You feel me?
Not the hard R, DDG. Didn't DDG just put in his TRO that he filed against Halle Bailey that she called him a racial slur? So was this comment for Halle or was it for Reggie? Because why would India Love be coming out to Italy to confront Reggie? Reggie's not there. So I believe it was for Halle, because when he first initially started talking, he stated that he, if he says he loves you, he really wants the best for you. But we clearly see that that's not really the case. Not with Halle. Their relationship is just so toxic to the point where he's not saying anything nice about her. He hasn't said anything nice about Halle. And I believe that remark was for Halle. I really do. And then he had the nerve to say that she called him a racial slur. So was that a projection? Was DDG actually the one calling her racial slurs? Or was it the other way around? I can't even imagine him complaining about somebody calling him a racial slur. Because was she actually saying guh or gur, like he just stated? Okay, it just flowed out his mouth like it was just a thing to say. So it makes you wonder. Just like when DDG was saying that she called him a lot of profane names. Not saying she didn't, but it's pretty obvious he did the same. That's what it's appearing to me. But I just can't believe he's complaining about her calling him, a racial slur when they throw the N-word around every other sentence. And let's be honest, everybody, we all know DDG filed his TRO as a response to Halle Bailey's TRO, and he put things in it and exposed her mental illness challenges just to humiliate her. That's what I believe it was for. And to have people thinking that she's insane, that she acted in poor judgment because she couldn't help herself, and that make her look like she's a poor mother, and a lot of things in that, and why he filed her. Because I feel like if he really felt like she was a threat, this would have been done way before she gave birth to Halo, and he would have cut off the relationship. The relationship would have been done in 2023 when she was carrying Halo. So, if he really felt she was a threat, that would have been the time to do it. But she was suffering through some things, and she said it was because of the things he put her through. And you can't discredit what she's saying. Maybe DDG was her first everything. Maybe he was her first real relationship. Maybe he was her first sexual relationship. And when that happens, the feelings are even stronger, because that's just what it is. It's your first boyfriend, your first girlfriend, real girlfriend. That's more intense. So, and we've all been there, so we know what that's like. And that's what I think she got too wrapped up in him. Like Halle said, she was a fan of DDG before she actually got with him. So I'm sure that might have had a lot to do with it as well, because they just met in 2022 and started already having problems. And neither one of them paid attention to that. Like, dang, we haven't even been together a whole year and we're already bumping heads. To the degree of, where it's becoming like physical. We're saying very abusive things to one another already. And it's just it just got worse and worse and worse. And that's all I'm saying. Do you guys think Halle and DDG should just try to get along for Halo? Go try to get some type of counseling and stuff to try to at least try to be healthy parents, co-parents for their child. because it's a situation is really, really volatile, and it seemed like every day it's just getting worse and worse and worse because of the jealousy. Jealousy is still in existence, and then it's like they're very competitive, it seems like. So, I mean, just tell me what you think. Leave your comment, share my video, and give me a like. Have a nice day, everyone.